Afternoon, everybody. Well, since this time last year, energy costs have nearly doubled for every household. They're at an all-time high, and there is a possibility they could rise again in April. So today we're going to look at what we can do personally to manage energy costs as best we can. So for the next 25 minutes, we're going to cover energy bills, what's happening with them. We're going to look at the help and support available from the government and the energy providers. Then we're going to look at just how can we make sure we're getting the best deals for electricity, gas and oil, and then the behaviours that we can adopt around the house to reduce our energy use. I thought it would also be useful to mention where we can go to find out more about our home energy efficiency, and then we're going to finish off just by looking at those energy scams and how we can avoid them, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end as well. Before I begin, I should just stress that Better With Money is an independent company and we're providing information, not advice today. If I mention companies and websites along the way, it is just because they offer good services, not because we're in any way connected to them or financially incentivized to do so. Okay, let's start then. Let's have a recap of what's happening on energy bills and what's likely to happen this year. So let's roll back to last year. Well, energy prices started to rise dramatically, and there were a few reasons for that, but the two most important were, first of all, there's more global demand for energy as we came out of lockdown, and now we're having hotter summers and colder winters, probably because of climate change. That means we're using more heating, more air conditioning, and so there's more demand for energy, so the price starts to go up. But that has been coupled with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has threatened supplies and it's driven up prices further. And Russia is one of the world's largest producers of oil and gas. They supply the UK and Europe with about 40% of its gas back in 2021. So now that we're refusing to trade with Russia, our supply has reduced. And again, that's pushing prices up. So back in January 19, the energy regulator Ofgem introduced an energy price cap on gas and electricity because they were concerned that many people were not switching supplier regularly enough to find cheaper deals and they were paying too much for their energy. And that energy price cap that they set is the maximum amount that energy suppliers can charge for each unit of energy that we use, but also that standing charge, which is that daily amount that we get charged to have the service. Now, due to the increase in prices for energy, the price cap for gas and electricity went up by 54% last April, and it was due to go up by another 80% in October. But the government intervened and introduced what they called the energy price guarantee. And that meant that in October, we only saw another 30% increase. And the government actually is now paying the difference between what we're being charged for energy and the wholesale price. And that means at the moment, the average household bill for energy is about £2,500 a year. But if you've got a 4-bedroomed house, it's likely to be double that. It's nearer to £5,000 a year. Now, this energy price guarantee is in place until the end of March. But remember, that guarantee only relates to that price per unit, not overall. So the more energy we use, the more that energy is going to cost us. Now, the price cap did change ever so slightly in January. You might have seen a very slight change to your bill. But if you want to look at what your price cap is, it does vary by region. So if you take a look on the Money Saving Expert website, you will see all of the table of all the different caps for both electricity and gas in all different areas of the UK, if you want to refer to that. So what's going to happen this year? Well, most of the news is preparing us for another 20% increase on our guaranteed energy price in April. So that means that the average energy bill is going to go up to about £3,000 a year. However, there have been reports that wholesale energy prices have dropped by about 40% last year. So energy companies are now buying that energy more cheaply. Will they pass it on to us? That remains to be seen. So for now, I think in all of our assumptions, we should probably just work on the assumption that come April, everything's going to rise by another 20%. If it doesn't, that'll be a good news story. Now, that doesn't apply to oil. The prices for oil are not regulated in the same way as they are for electricity and gas, but I'm going to be looking at that later in the webinar. Now, whilst energy prices are high and the cost of living has generally gone up, the government has stepped in to help all households with these increased energy prices. So in England, Wales and Scotland, all electricity customers are receiving £400 off their electricity bill. And that's during the period 1st of October to the 31st of March. This is a grant and it doesn't need to be paid back. So how does that work in practice? Well, if you pay your bills by direct debit or credit, you will be seeing a credit of either £66 or £67 a month being deducted from your electricity bill in monthly instalments. So you're getting that £66, £67 off between October and March. If you've got a smart payment meter, you will have that credit, that £66 or £67 credited to your meter once a month for the 6 months up until the end of March. If you've got a traditional prepaid meter, you should be receiving vouchers or a special text message once a month that you can use towards the top-ups. Now, in addition, the government has now announced that there is an additional alternative fuel payment of £200. And that's for those households that don't use main gas, but they might use fuel like oil or liquid petroleum gas instead. And those payments are starting from this month. And the aim for that £200 is that's roughly equivalent to the support that people are getting if they use gas. Now, if you're eligible for the alternative fuel payment, you should get the money automatically. And again, you're going to get that through your electricity supplier. And that's likely to be a credit on your electricity bill. Now, slightly different if you live in Northern Ireland. Payments have changed slightly. So all households are going to be receiving a one-off payment of £600 to help with their energy bills. And that's, again, starting this month. That does mean that the alternative fuel payment is going to be available to everybody in Northern Ireland, not just those who use the off-grid fuel. Now, customers who pay by direct debit will receive that into their bank account directly in Northern Ireland. Others are going to be sent a voucher to redeem. So that's the main grant that everybody's getting, that kind of that energy bill support scheme. But there are other cost of living support payments as well. And to see what they are, go to that Help for Households website, which is at the bottom of the page. This website's been put in place by the government to run through all of the financial support available to you. So that really should be your first port of call, just to make sure that you're getting everything you're entitled to. Now, there's too many grants to go through on this webinar today, but I'm just going to mention a few. First of all, there is a warm home discount. That's a one-off rebate of £140, and that gets applied to your energy bills. That's for those who are mainly on lower incomes and state benefits. There's also an annual government winter fuel payment. That's between £100 and £300, and that's for the retired and elderly people. Unlike some of the other grants, that winter fuel payment is not means tested. It gets paid automatically. And the other one that's quite interesting, particularly at the moment, is there is a cold weather payment. This is a one-off payment of £25 when the temperature in your area is 0 degrees or below for 7 consecutive days. But to qualify for that, you should be claiming certain types of benefits like pension credit, universal credit, income support, things like that. So do take a look at the Help for Households website just to see what you might be entitled to. Now, if you are struggling with energy debt and you've been unable to pay your energy bills, maybe you're in arrears, many of the energy suppliers have set up charitable trusts to provide additional grants to those most vulnerable. Now, I've put the companies who are offering this support on the right-hand side of the slide. You don't necessarily have to be their customer in order to qualify for the grants. And in particular, the British Gas Energy Trust has grants available for everybody who qualifies. Lastly, just to note, right at the bottom there, the government is investing £12 billion in Help to Heat schemes to make sure that homes are warmer and they're cheaper to heat. So that includes things like a boiler upgrade scheme, a home upgrade scheme. So please do look on that at that website at the bottom just to see if there's any energy grants that you can apply for. Now, as well as the government grants and help, we can also look at what we can do ourselves to reduce our energy bills. And one of the ways we can often save money here is by switching energy provider to get the best price, just like you do with insurance. Now, the energy regulator Ofgem has provided a list of accredited price comparison sites for energy. I've shown them on the slide there, but you've got My Money Supermarket, USwitch being two of those most popular comparison sites. But do remember, if you are looking at switching, energy prices are still being subsidised by the government at the moment, so you're unlikely to find very much difference in prices between suppliers because that price per unit and the standing charge is capped by region. But if you are thinking of switching, maybe it's because of their customer service and you're currently with a provider that has gone bust. One of the last companies that went bust was Bulb. You do need to wait until you've been moved to the replacement provider before you look at switching. And unfortunately, because of the current situation, many providers are not open to new customers at the moment. Just to note and just to reiterate, I am totally independent, but personally, I switched to Utility Warehouse about 18 months ago. That was more from a customer service point of view, but I do find them good value for money. They have got good customer service and they are still open for business. So if you are looking around, it might just be one to throw in the mix. Another way that you can reduce costs on energy bills is by paying by direct debit. You can often save up to £200 a year in normal situations, but each supplier bases direct debits on an estimate of your usage. And if that's wrong, you could end up overpaying every month. So to make sure your direct debit amount is correct, if you go onto the Money Saving Expert direct debit calculator, which I've shown on the right-hand side here, it does help to work out what your direct debit should be under the energy price guarantee at the moment. So put in your usage. It has factored in January's slight rate changes as well. And if you think your direct debit is much higher than what you get on the calculator, you can ask your energy provider to change it. The other thing to see is, are you in credit on your bill? If you are, that means you've paid more money than the energy you've actually used. However, remember, we are about to hit some more chilly weather, so you might be banging your heating up for a little while, so you might well be using that credit up. So wait until the warmer weather to decide whether you want to reduce your direct debit or claim that credit back. Now, we've spoken a lot about electricity and gas there, so I now just want to concentrate for a moment on getting the best deal on oil, because there are about 1 million households in Great Britain that rely on heating oil. So what can you do if you are one of them? Well, the first thing to do is to shop around for your oil. I did quite a lot of research on this, and most of the guides I found recommended using price comparison site boilerjuice.com. And what this does is it pits the heating oil suppliers against each other, so they start bidding for your business. Now, you type in your postcode, how many litres of heating oil that you're looking for, and then Boiler Juice will offer you quotes from the various suppliers that cover your area. Now, once you've got that quote, what you could do is then check that against the UK and Ireland Fuel Distributors Association, that UK IFDA website, just to see if you can get a cheaper supplier in your area. But whoever you go with, if you do decide to go with Boiler Juice, the great thing about them is that you pay at the time of ordering, and that is the maximum that you'll pay. So even if prices go up, they keep to that price. But if the charge comes down, they may charge you less as long as that happens before delivery. The other thing that Boiler Juice do is they offer group buying opportunities. So it automatically groups your order with others that they receive on the same day from your immediate postcode. And if there's enough people ordering from the same area, you will get a bulk buying discount and you're going to benefit from a lower delivery price as well. So just see if you can try and get your friends and neighbours to place orders at the same time, because that's going to save you money. The other thing is to think about the time of year you buy oil. It's often cheaper in the summer because demand is lower. It starts to get higher in autumn, just as demand starts to peak. So thinking ahead at the beginning of the year so that you're ordering kind of as you're coming out of spring into summer could be a really good idea. Other things to keep your costs down with oil, just make sure that your oil boiler is properly serviced, just to make sure that it's running efficiently, it's not using more fuel than it needs to. But very importantly, and this is really sad at the moment, don't let that expensive oil go walkabout, because oil thefts are on the rise. And you can take very simple precautions, just as getting a lock on your refilling cap, because then that's going to prevent thieves from getting in and draining your tank. I had a quick look on the Energy Saving Trust website, and I could see that you could get a really good quality cap that you can lock for about £55. And finally, and probably most obviously, please don't let your oil tank run out, because that means then you're going to have to do an emergency delivery and you're probably going to get charged more for that. So do regularly check how much oil is left in the tank. So now we've looked at sourcing energy, let's look at the things that we can do that's within our power to do that can really help to reduce our energy bills. And the way we can do that is really by looking at our energy behaviours. Now, the information I put on this slide is from the Energy Saving Trust. And that's a good provider to look at, a good website to look at. It's got loads of information all around energy saving. And the figures that I'm showing here are for an average household. So how much you could save could actually be higher, particularly if you're high users or you've got lots of people in your house. So let's look at the 10 top tips that they're giving in order to save energy. So number one is to switch off anything that's on standby. You can save around £65 a year just remembering to turn off your appliances at the wall overnight. You know, almost all of our electrical appliances can be, things like our microwaves, our kettles, without upsetting the programming. Or maybe you want to think about getting a standby saver or a smart plug, which will automatically turn off those appliances at once. I actually had a friend who did this. He checked it against his smart meter. He thought he saved about 10 pence an hour overnight. So he was saving nearer to £250 a year by doing that. Number two, of course, turn off your lights when you're not using them when you leave the room. That can save you about £25 a year on your annual energy bills. And maybe, I've heard of some people getting those motion sensor light bulbs as well, so that particularly for kids, as they leave the room, if they don't turn it off, it will go off anyway. Number three is all around your washing. You can actually save £34 a year just by reducing to a 30-degree cycle rather than 40 degrees and trying to do one less wash a week. No such luck in my house, I don't think, with all those sports kits. Number four, avoiding the tumble dryer. Now, anything in your house that has got a heating element is going to be expensive to run. Things like tumble dryers, kettles, what I'm going to say, the hair dryers as well. Couldn't get my words out then. But with tumble dryers, they are one of the biggest offenders. So drying clothes on your racks inside when the weather is cold or outside when the weather is warmer can save you up to £70 a year. Number five, we hear this often, don't we? Spend less time in the shower. If you can reduce your shower to just 4 minutes, you might be able to save up to £95 a year. And if you switch one bath a week for a 4-minute shower, that can also save you an additional £20. Number six, and this is the one I'm really conscious of, avoid overfilling that kettle. Don't boil it too often. You could save £13 a year on that. There's quite a few sessions I've hosted where people have said actually they've put water into thermos flasks at the beginning of the day and then they use that for their hot drink so they don't have to keep reboiling. Number seven, fill your dishwasher before you turn it on. Don't run it on a half load. And actually, again, just reducing your dishwasher runs by one a week could save you £17 in the year. Number eight, this could be fairly simple nowadays. Just switching those old filament light bulbs for LEDs. You're going to save about £7 per bulb per year. And then number 9 and 10 is all about your home energy efficiency. You know, unless your home is very new, you are going to lose some heat through drafts around doors and windows, gaps around the floors, even up the chimney. You can actually get professional draft proofing of windows, doors and cracks in the floor. Costs about £225 to get done, but it can save you about £125 a year. So you'll get that payback in less than 2 years. And number 10 is to think about that insulation, and particularly on your hot water tank. If you can upgrade to an 80mm thick jacket, or put a jacket on at all if your hot water tank hasn't got one, you can save about £70 a year. And those jackets cost between £20 and £30. One that's not on here, which is my particular favourite, and I know lots of people are doing it at the moment, is switching to air fryers. If you cook the same food in an air fryer and that cost you £55, it would cost you £350 using an oven. So that's 7 times more expensive. Now, you can spend a fortune on air fryers, but you can get a pretty decent one between £50 and £80. And I have to say, I do roast chickens and sausages and all sorts of lovely things in there. Well worth taking a look at. Now, if you want to know how much your appliances are costing you, you can look at the Citizens Advice tool that I've shown at the bottom here on the slide. You put in, I use my kettle twice, my dishwasher 3 times, and it will give you a cost. Now, if you follow all of the tips on this slide, then you could save well over £650 a year. And that really, the savings for that can then be redirected either to save for something more meaningful or to help those increased costs in other areas. Now, I've mentioned insulation and draft proofing, but there are other things you can do to your home too to make them more energy efficient. I know many people are looking at solar panels at the moment, and the hope is that those panels will provide you with not only the electricity that you need, but it will also produce extra energy that you can then sell back to the grid. Now, the Energy Saving Trust has got a whole host of brilliant information about all the home improvements that you can do, from the solar panels, how much they're going to cost you, all the way through to wall insulation and heat pumps, and it'll tell you how long it's going to take you to get paybacks on those initial investments. So please do take a look at the Energy Saving Trust. So they're an independent organisation, and they are working very closely with the energy providers to get that energy efficiency. Now, unfortunately, with every crisis comes scams, and there have been significant increases in scammers impersonating energy firms, really to trick people into handing over money. The consumer company IMechE reported that energy scams actually rose by about 30% last year compared with the year before. So I just thought we'd take some time to have a look at what you should be looking out for. Now, just with all scams, please watch out for any cold calls that you're not expecting, particularly from people claiming to be energy providers, or maybe it might just be an email that's got, or a text that's got links in that take you through to a page to fill out personal details. Your first thought should always be, I think that's a scam. So let's have a look at a few. One such scam is where fraudsters have posted as a major supplier E.ON, and they've claimed to the person that they're entitled to an 85% refund because of an overcharge. But to claim that, you then have to click on a link. It asks you for your bank details. So if you do receive an email like that, always make sure that you're just checking the real email address of that sender. If you just hover your mouse over the email that it comes in from, it will tell you what that underlying address is. Never just click on links and fill out personal details. Second one is around energy saving devices. This scam was all about a plug-in energy device. It claimed to save you up to 90% off your energy bill. It was being marketed as either Voltex or Motex, and these have actually been available on Amazon and eBay. But I can absolutely tell you that they don't save you money. They haven't passed any safety checks. They could be a fire hazard. So when you are buying electricals, always look to make sure they've got the UKCA mark to ensure that they meet safety standards before you plug it in. And absolutely, if you've been seeing Voltex or Motex, that is a scam. They do not work. Next one's around debt collectors. As many of the smaller energy companies collapsed, people were getting emails from Brilliant Energy saying that they still owed money to their previous providers. They even had people's names, so the emails did look authentic. But what I can tell you is that if your energy supplier ceases trading, it will swiftly be taken over by another Ofgem appointed firm, and it will always be that new firm that manages the account and any arrears, not some unknown firm that you haven't dealt with before. The next one, green home improvement grants. I mean, over the years, a variety of government initiatives have come and gone. The most recent one was the Green Homes Grant. That was in 2020 to 2021. Fraudsters love to impersonate these legitimate schemes, mainly during cold calls. So again, if you haven't asked for that call, try not to take it. And lastly on here, Action Fraud is warning of a scam that's targeting households that use prepayment meters. Criminals are actually managing to clone these meter keys. They put £100 credit on them, and then they go around door to door selling them for just £50. So effectively offering half price energy. Now, although these might work, if your legitimate supplier realizes that you're using them, that you're not paying for energy, you're going to have to pay the full amount for the energy anyway. So never engage with anybody who's selling stuff door to door, particularly around energy. Now, if you do suspect a scam, please do contact Action Fraud, which is our National Fraud and Cybercrime Agency, if it's related to energy, but also phone Ofgem as well. And I've put the phone numbers there. So hopefully just a very quick run through of how you might be able to save a little bit of money on energy, and particularly looking at the energy supplier that you have. And before I finish today, just a reminder not to forget the fantastic services offered by the ICE BEN Fund and Support Network, who have both sponsored the webinar today. They can provide financial, workplace and wellbeing support to you and your families. And I've put the website and the helpline numbers here just so that you can find out more. Right, Sarah, back to you, just to see if we've had any questions.
Thank you very much. Lots to think about there. Great content. We have had a few questions come in. So to start with, how are the monthly support scheme payments affected if I change supplier? Would the new supplier provide this?
Yes, absolutely. Whoever's supplying your electricity at the time should be giving you that credit. They should also know that you've already had the credits from October through to January. So if you switch now, you would just get the February and Marches from the new supplier.
Great. And we have had another question. What is best to do if you've built up a large credit with your energy supplier? We're talking in the range of £1,000+ worth of money.
Okay, yeah, and and in that instance, it's unlikely that you're going to use all of that energy between now and the end of the year. So you do have a couple of options available to you, because effectively that is your money. You can contact your supplier and ask them to make a refund of some of that credit. The alternative is that you just reduce your direct debit down. So rather than taking the money back, you just pay less for the next few months to get over that. I mean, just to be aware that, of course, if we are going to get some snow, as they're predicting, if you are going to need more energy, typically we use more energy between kind of November and March. So try and account for that. But, with that amount of credit, and if you don't think you're going to use that over the year, it might well be worth just contacting your provider and asking them to make a refund of some of that money, just to take your credit down. Even if you took £500, left £500 in the account, and then had a look in April and thought, right, now I can bring down my direct debit. So yeah, quite a few options there.
That's great, thank you. And with so much conflicting information, obviously it's a very difficult subject. What is the best source that people can keep on top of any potential changes going forward?
Yeah, so I would suggest there's three main ones that I look at that I know and trust. That first one is the Energy Saving Trust. They have some great articles about what's happening with energy at the moment. And as I say, they are a trusted provider and they're independent. Two other sources that I always find really, really helpful. One is the Money Saving Expert website, which is that Martin Lewis one. They've got a whole team of researchers that are looking to update people on a day-to-day basis. And again, they kind of have breaking news if anything changes. And the other trusted source is IMechE, that consumer company. Obviously, it used to be Which magazine, but it's now more online. Again, they've got some great articles that are up to date and tell you what's what as well. So they're the three: Energy Saving Trust, Money Saving Expert, and IMechE.
Great. And we have just a couple moments more. So last one, I've seen it mentioned a lot, actually. Is it worth swapping energy suppliers right now?
It's interesting. I mean, I think I alluded to it. The likelihood is that most of the energy suppliers at the moment are roughly charging the same amount. There will be differences, so it is well worth just, comparing, using one of those Ofgem accredited sites, so maybe Uswitch or Money Supermarket. Just see what another provider will offer you. But I doubt the price is going to be much difference, because actually they're not charging us the full amount at the moment because the government are picking up that difference. When energy prices start to go back down, which it looks like they are starting to, you might see far more of a differential in future. So that might be the case. But actually, the reason to switch now might actually be customer service, because that varies enormously between different companies. Some have got offshore phone numbers, which can be quite difficult to answer sometimes. Some people find it very difficult changing direct debits. So for that reason, that might be worth it. Is it worth it in terms of price? Unlikely at the moment, but more so as energy prices start to come down.